Here's something the healthcare system almost never asks. When someone has a stroke, a husband, a wife, a parent, the medical team rushes in. Neurologists, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, nurses. Everyone focus on the patient. And that's exactly right. That's how it should be. But in all that focus, who asks how the spouse is doing? Who checks if the person who now wakes up 4 times a night, who lifts and transfers and worries without end, who checks if they're okay? A 2024 scoping review published in the Journal of the American Geriatrics Society found that physical pain in family caregivers is one of the most consistently under-recognized health problems in modern medicine. And a Spanish randomized controlled trial found that 100% every single caregiver in their study was experiencing musculoskeletal pain. 100%. Today's guest knows that number isn't just a statistic. For 18 months, he was that statistic. And then slowly he found a way back. Through physiotherapy, through movement, through learning something ancient and something new at the same time. This is his story, and it belongs to every family who has ever loved someone through illness. Welcome to the Wellness Bridge. I'm Gary Chen, physiotherapist and founder of GC Integrative Physiotherapy and Wellness on the Gold Coast. Every week, we build bridges between Eastern wisdom and Western science because your body is the meeting point of both. And today's bridge runs right through the heart of what it means to care for someone you love. Robert is 67 years old. He spent 35 years as a construction project manager on the Gold Coast, a man who built things for a living, who prided himself on knowing how to handle whatever came at him. 18 months ago, his wife Margaret had a stroke, and for the first time in his life, Robert had no blueprint for what came next. Robert, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Gary. It's good to talk about it. Took me a while to be ready to, but I'm glad I am.
Let's start right at the beginning. What was it actually like, those first weeks after Margaret's stroke?
It was shock. That's the only word for it. You go from, normal life, and then just, everything changes in a moment. She was in hospital, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to lift her properly. I don't know what the medications do. I don't know what she needs. I just felt completely out of my depth.
That transition, from partner to primary caregiver, the research describes it as one of the most psychologically destabilizing experiences a person can face, especially for spouses. There's this sense that the relationship itself has shifted.
That's exactly it. I mean, I love Margaret. But she couldn't be my Margaret for a while. I was her carer. And I had to figure out how to hold both of those things at once, the husband and the nurse, and I didn't do it well, not at first.
Robert, I want to ask you something that most people wouldn't think to ask. What happened to your body during this time?
My body?
Yes, we think of caregiving as emotional, but physically, what were you experiencing?
My back started going, probably within 3 or 4 months. I was doing all the transfers, getting her in and out of bed, in and out of the shower, and I didn't know how to do it properly. I'd wake up with this burning in my lower back. Then it moved to my neck, and I was sleeping terribly. Any little sound and I'd be up. I thought, well, that's just what you do. You push through it. That's what I know.
And that is exactly what the research shows. A Spanish study in 2023 looked at 68 family caregivers. 100% reported musculoskeletal pain. 80% were in moderate or severe pain. The most common locations: lower back, 69%, neck, nearly 60%, and 80% of caregivers had pain in 2 or more locations at the same time.
That's almost reassuring to hear, in a strange way, because I thought I was just being weak.
You were not being weak. You were part of a system that never gave you the tools to protect yourself. There's actually a term researchers use, the invisible patient. The caregiver is the person the system doesn't see, and the consequences are real.
It just builds up, doesn't it? You stop sleeping. You stop moving well. Your mood starts to go. And then one day I looked in the mirror and I thought, if I go down, who looks after her?
That question, if I go down, who looks after her, might be the most important question a caregiver can ask, because the research has a very specific answer. A 2024 study published in Neurological Sciences followed stroke patients and their primary caregivers and found something remarkable. The emotional states of the caregiver and the patient are directly linked. When the caregiver has high levels of anxiety, the patient shows higher anxiety. When the caregiver's mental health deteriorates, the patient's rehabilitation outcomes worsen. And, critically, when the caregiver heals, the patient often heals faster too. The researchers called this the virtuous circle. Caregiver well-being leads to patient compliance with rehab, which leads to better patient outcomes, which leads to reduced caregiver burden. A loop that can spiral upward, or spiral down, and we get to choose the direction.
And no one told me that. No one said, Robert, how you're doing matters for how Margaret does.
That's the gap. And it's why caregiver health needs to be treated as part of the rehabilitation plan, not separate from it. What changed for you, Robert? How did things start to shift?
My GP finally said to me, look, I want you to see a physio. Not for Margaret. For you. And I pushed back. I said I don't have time for that. But she was pretty firm about it. And eventually I went.
And what happened?
First session, she showed me how to actually do the transfers properly. Just the mechanics of it. And something in my back just settled. And then she started talking about movement, about doing something for myself every day. Not just the caregiving tasks. Something that was mine.
And that's when Tai Chi came in?
Yeah. I was skeptical, I'll be honest. I'm a construction bloke. But she put me in a beginner's group, early morning, down at the park near our place. And I thought, I'll give it 6 weeks.
I want to pause here, because what you've just described is something that ancient Chinese philosophy has understood for thousands of years, and that Western science is only now quantifying. In Taoist thought, there's a concept, Si, which means loving kindness, but not the version we usually think of, where love flows outward. In its deepest form, Si teaches that you cannot give from an empty vessel. The river cannot flow from a dry spring. The great Taoist teachers said the same thing in different ways, that the capacity to care, to hold space for another, requires that you first hold space for yourself. And now, in 2024, a meta-analysis of 11 randomized controlled trials involving over 1,300 people found that Tai Chi, this ancient movement practice, significantly reduces perceived stress, with a standardized mean difference of negative 0.41. A network meta-analysis of 20 studies found that Yang-style Tai Chi was the most effective form specifically for anxiety reduction.
So the thing I started doing for myself, that was actually the mechanism?
Exactly. The research also showed something surprising. Caregivers who had the worst anxiety and depression at the start of an exercise program showed the greatest reduction in physical pain. Not the ones who were already managing okay. The ones who were most depleted benefited most, because the body and mind are one system, and movement unlocks both.
I remember about 8 weeks in, I noticed I was sleeping better. And then I noticed I was less snappy with Margaret's nurses. And then Margaret's physio said to me, she said, I don't know what you've done, but Margaret is working harder in our sessions. And I nearly cried right there in the hallway.
That's the virtuous circle. You filled your vessel, and it overflowed into hers. For every family caregiver listening, whether you're in the thick of it right now or you know someone who is, here are 5 things the evidence tells us actually work. Number 1. Treat your pain like it matters. Because it does, and because it affects the person you're caring for. 70% of caregivers have lower back pain. 60% have neck pain. Physical therapeutic exercise. supervised, structured, has been shown to reduce caregiver pain with large effect sizes. Don't push through it, address it. Number 2. Tai Chi works, and the style matters. Yang style Tai Chi is the most evidence-supported form for anxiety reduction. If you're sleep deprived and anxious and carrying the weight of someone else's recovery, Yang style Tai Chi is specifically designed for you. Even 20 to 30 minutes 3 times a week builds the evidence base. Number 3. Your body at home is your gym. The research shows that home-based exercise programs have the same clinical benefits as center-based ones for caregivers. You don't need a gym membership. You need 5 square meters and a commitment to move your own body, not just the body you're caring for. Number 4. Progressive muscle relaxation is a 15-minute miracle. Benson's relaxation technique, contracting and releasing major muscle groups, has been shown in multiple studies to significantly reduce subjective caregiver burden. No equipment, no cost. You can do it while the person you're caring for is sleeping. And number 5, you are not abandoning your loved one when you take care of yourself. The science is explicit. Your health is part of their rehabilitation plan. Every time you sleep better, move better, breathe better, you become a more capable caregiver, and they recover better because of it.
That last one is the hardest one to believe. But I know it's true now. I see it every week.
Robert, for someone who's just found out their partner or parent needs long-term care, someone standing at the beginning of this road, what would you tell them?
I'd say, you're going to feel like it's not okay to need anything. And that feeling is wrong. You are allowed to sleep. You are allowed to be sore and to get that sorted. You are allowed to have 20 minutes in the morning that belong to you. Not because you deserve a break, you do, but that's not the reason. The reason is that the person you love needs you to be well.
The invisible patient, the one the system doesn't always see. Today we saw you, Robert, and I hope every caregiver listening heard themselves in your story. The Wellness Bridge has always been about one idea, that Western science and Eastern wisdom are not opposites, they are partners. And nowhere is that more true than in the quiet, overlooked, world-changing work of caring for someone you love. If this episode has given you one thing, even one small permission to take care of yourself, then it has done its job. You can find all the research from today's episode at integrative.com. If this helped you, share it with a caregiver in your life who needs to hear it. Leave a review, subscribe, and I'll see you next week on the Wellness Bridge. Remember, together, we find balance in one.